Hi there, this is Emma Zobel from snowdropcreates.com. We have a new pattern, free pattern on the blog for you this week, and it is the Brie hat, which uses this nice technique that looks kind of like, a little bit like the brioche, which it's inspired by. I love the look of that, so I tried to imitate it with the crochet technique. This is actually a very nice pattern to start out with the brioche crochet because it doesn't have a very complicated pattern, so it's kind of a nice introductory pattern for this, and it looks really cute on. I will put the link to the pattern into the notes below, so you can check that out if you like to have the whole pattern. And for the video today, I will be making the toddler size. So I have chained my 60 and joined to the first chain. And then, as per tutorial, I will chain 3 and treble into that base chain that I joined into. So you have to know how to do trebles for this pattern. I will not be actually teaching it in this video. You might be able to figure it out by watching what I'm doing, but if you don't know how to do it, I suggest you find a video that explains it in detail. So I've trebled into the first chain, and now it says chain 1, skip 1, and now treble into the next one. So you have chained 1, you skip the next one, and you treble into the next chain. You do that again, skip 1, treble into the next chain. And chain 1, skip 1, treble into the next chain. You do that all the way around the beginning chain and join into the first treble, not into the loop, into the chain space, but into this first treble. And then you will be putting a stitch marker into that loop. I will show you that in just a moment. Okay, so I've reached the end of my starting row, my first row, and I will slip stitch into the first treble, and then put a little stitch marker into that loop, because we will be leaving that at the end, at the back of the work, because now we're going to attach color B, so we get that nice bicolored look. So you find the loop, the chain right beside where you started with color A. So this is our starting chain, this is our first treble with color A, and then there is a loop right, the first chain right beside it to the left. That's where you will now join the next color. And you want to keep your yarn that you're working with at the front, because you're always going to be working at the front, never at the back. So it says again, chain 3, and treble into that same chain. And then chain 1, treble into the next skip chain right here. You can see that I can fold this back because I'm actually working only at the front. So we ignore the dark color, the color A, and we only work with the color B at the front of our work. So treble crochet again into the next skip chain, chain 1, treble into the next skip chain, chain 1, treble into the next skip chain, and you continue this way all around So I will pause the video and I will do that all the way around. You can see how I did that. It looks like this now. It can be folded up, open. This is going to be the right side of the work. You will always work on the right side of the work. So go like this all the way around. Okay, so I have gone all the way around like this with color B, and now I will be joining it again to the first treble, not the chain, and put a stitch marker into that loop, because we will now be continuing to work with color A again. So you hold the two together so that you know what you're doing here, and then you pick up that color A loop again. Now chain 3 and front post treble into the stitch of the same color below. It will be 1 stitch ahead of the first color B stitch. So that's what it says in the tutorial. What does that mean? This is your color A chain, and you're working into this stitch right underneath. Now this is where you started with your color B, but you have to stay straight. You can't go forward or backward. So you have to crochet into this one right underneath, and we're gonna do front post trebles from here on out. So go back and forth around the treble below here, and then right away you see how this brought our color A to the front. So now you will be working over top color B. That way you will get this unified look here. So that's what you want. So now we will treble. It says treble into the front post treble into the next one, which means this one. Since this doesn't actually count, it's the chain, and this is your first treble. So when it says front post treble into the next stitch, it means the next stitch of the same color. You always crochet into the same color, never into another color. So I won't be writing in the tutorial. It won't say into the next color of the stitch of the same color all the time, because that is implied. You will always be working only into the same color. So now you have made a decrease. You will see that it will come out a little bit later looking like this. So now you've made your first decrease, and now the pattern says chain 1 front post treble into the next one. So chain 1 front post treble around the next one, and then we repeat this 3 times. Chain 1 front post treble around the next one, chain 1 front post treble around the next one, so that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you have, sorry about that, you have repeated this 3 times. Now you're gonna chain 1, front post treble around the next one, chain 1, front post treble around the same one. That is an increase. You have now made an increase. Now chain 1, front post treble into the next 2 without a chain in between. So around the first one. Note you're not front post trebling 2 together, you're making 2, but you're not chaining in between. And that is your decrease. So you have made 1 increase, 1 decrease. It's gonna look like this later. 1 increase and then 1 decrease. Now you chain again and front post treble around the next one, chain, front post treble around the next one, as many times as the pattern will tell you. So this, for the toddler size, it's 3 times. So you've done that 3 times, 1, 2, 3. And then you chained 1, and now you do the increase again. Front post treble, chain 1, and front post treble around the same post. Chain 1, front post treble, no chain, front post treble. Next, increase and decrease made. And we're going to do that again. Chain, front post treble, chain, front post treble, chain, front post treble, chain, increase, front post treble, chain, front post treble into this around the same post, increase made, chain, front post treble around the next 2 without a chain in between, decrease made. Now chain again, 1, 2, 3. I've chained. Now the increase again. Chain and front post treble into the same stitch. Chain, front post treble into the next 2 without chaining in between. Sorry, my yarn keeps snagging here. Won't unroll for me. So increase made, decrease made. The decrease is just 2 trebles without a chain in between. The increase is 2 trebles around the same post with a chain in between. So chain again, front post treble. And remember, you always work into the same color. You ignore the other one, but you go over it so it stays in the back. And you will do that again with the next color in just a minute here. So again, 3 times. And now we're doing chain and increase. Now, I have actually made a mistake in the beginning chain, it looks like. And I have an extra stitch here, but we're just going to ignore it because it's not important. You're going to chain again and join into that first treble. This will be invisible later. And now put this back on the stitch marker. And your row number 3 is done. You pick up the color B again. I just pull this tighter so it doesn't flop around and it's in my way. So the beginning is always a little bit tricky, but it's fine, you can do it. So now, see here, you've done this decrease, oh dear. You've done this decrease in the beginning of last row. Now you won't chain into this, work into the stitch because that's gone. This decrease, think of it as just disappeared. You're going to go instead into this right before that. And again, you chain, now you chain in the back, starting in row 3 or 4 now. You will chain in the back, but you will work in the front. That way the chain will be invisible. That's why I said that I have this extra stitch here isn't a big deal because it's going to be invisible. Sorry about that, I just made a mistake there working into the chain. I had one too many, but that will be invisible. So now you go 2 treble around this post right in front of the join, and then without a chain, treble into this stitch. So this one is gone, it has disappeared. This is your last decrease, and now you're gonna work into this one, which is now your next one. That's why it says in the tutorial into the next one, because that is your next one. The other one is gone. And now you can see how this creates that spike. This spike. And now you chain 1, and you do the same thing that you did for the first row. We go chain 1, front post treble around the next one, chain 1, front post treble around the next one, chain 1, front post treble around the next one. Again, I'm not really explaining how to do trebles or front post trebles. You have to be familiar with those to make this pattern, and I suggest that you look up a video. I haven't made one yet, but that you look up a video about trebles if you are not familiar with them. They're basically just double crochets, except you loop the yarn around twice. Oops, sorry. You loop the yarn around twice, so it's a longer stitch. And now you're working into this increase. So you're gonna go right in between, and you can see here that if you look right in between this increase, you can see the chain from the row below, this chain here. And that's where you will be working into. So you will treble into this. You can kind of bring it forward if that's easier. Okay, so here's the increase from the row before, from color A, and you will be working into this chain. Chain 1, and into it again. Now you have made the increase with color B, and that will form this arrow looking spike. And now chain 1. Now the next one is a decrease again. This is where some people have trouble understanding the picture tutorial, and that's why I decided to make this video. Now you can see here color A, that is the decrease here. There is 1 treble, the second treble, and there's no chain in between. You are working around this, since this decrease actually makes this little color B one disappear. So you treble into the next one here after the decrease, that next one, and without chaining, it says in the pattern to treble, front post treble around the next one, which is now this one, because this one has disappeared. So you're crocheting around the decrease of the previous row. And now you've made the next decrease. And you can already see how the pattern is starting to show. And now you keep going with the pattern, so that's chain, front post treble around next one, and you can see how I work at the front. The ridges here in the back, I always push my last worked row into the back, so I always work at the front. Chain 1, around next one, chain 1, 1 more, chain 1. Now we're here at the increase again. So again, you're going through this and kind of pull that through. 1, and the next one into the same one. This is a treble now. It's not really a front post treble because there's no post yet. You're creating the post. Now chain 1. Now this is the next. See, this is the increase. This is your next stitch. Treble around this one. And now no chaining, and you go into the next one, which is now this one, because this has disappeared underneath this decrease of color A. So this is your next front post, your next post that you double crochet around. So here you can see how the pattern is starting to form. Chain 1, front post treble, chain 1, front post treble, chain 1, front post treble. 3 times for the toddler size, chain 1, and again I'll show you one more time. This is the increase. You go through it and work into this loop of the same color. Treble, chain 1, treble. Now chain 1 and the next decrease again. You can see increase, next treble, and no chain. This is the next treble. And from this row onward, every row is worked the same way. Color A, color B, color A, color B. It's always the same one. You chain front post treble 3 times, or however many times that the tutorial or the pattern tells you to. Then you increase, decrease, and then again chain front post treble 3 times, increase, decrease, and you go all the way around and join always to the first stitch. I will show you again with the other color in just a minute when I've finished this row and joined it to the first stitch. Okay, so I finished with color B and joined it to my first treble here. Now I'm attaching color A again, chain 3, and front post treble around. Now again, this one is gone now because you increased over it. This one is disappearing, so you are actually making your first stitch 1 to the right. So this one would be the next one. See, this is where my chain comes out. This one would be the one that you want to crochet into, but that's not what you crochet into because this one is now disappeared. You're going to crochet into this one. Or around this one, I should say. And then without chaining, now it says in the pattern, it will say into the next stitch. That's this one now. It looks like a big jump, but it pulls it all together. At the end, you will not be able to see all these holes. Like, they will be nice. It will be nice and neat. You don't want to do this too loose, but you also don't have to pull it very hard. And now keep going in the pattern. Chain, front post treble, chain, front post treble. I will just go a little bit quicker here now, if my yarn works for me here. Front post treble, chain, increase, chain, increase, chain, and decrease now into this next one. No chain. This is your next one. This is gone. Chain, front post treble, chain, front post treble, chain, front post treble, increase, through the increase that you've done before, chain into the same one, chain into the next one, no chain into the next one. I say into, I mean around, actually. So this is your pattern, and you keep going like this until your hat reaches the measurement that it gives in the tutorial. For the toddler size, it will be about 5 inches. Doesn't have to be exact because it will be a little bit wavy, so you won't be able to exactly pinpoint it, but I would go a little bit longer rather than shorter, just because it's a fitted hat. It doesn't give a lot of, like, I didn't count in slouch. So if you're ever in doubt, add another row. So I hope this helps you with the Brie hat and the crochet brioche technique. For the full free pattern in toddler, child, and adult sizes, please visit www.snowdropcreates.com. I will put that link into this description box as well. And be sure to subscribe to the blog because I release a new free pattern every week. So until next time, bye!